What's going on, everybody? Welcome into Cal One-on-One on Cape Atlantic Live, presented by Ulmer's Appliance Service. I'm your host, Nick Kosko, and with me today is Mainland Football head coach Chuck Smith. Coach, thanks for joining me, man. And I can't believe this. I feel like just before we were talking about what happened at the end of last season, your magical run for your Mustangs, and we're about, 5 weeks away from the start of the 2023 season. So, I mean, time flies, and there's almost no more summer anymore as you gear up for the new football season.
Yeah, thanks, Nick, for having me. It's funny how high school football has evolved over the years. It's really become a 12-month type of sport. You know, you end the season, you have your banquet, you give the kids a couple of weeks off, and next thing you know, you're back in the weight room getting ready for the next season. You hit June as soon as the Meet of Champions is over. You're back on the field doing your summertime practices. You're back in the full teams in the weight room. Everybody's together, and then you have July practices, which we just ended actually last night. So it's 24/7.
No doubt. So looking at last year, 10-2, made it to the state Group 4 semifinals, close loss to Millville, the eventual state champions. But again, sectional title for you guys last season, a great run. I mean, I almost felt like that Ocean City loss earlier in the year didn't happen. Then it's like, this is one of the best teams in South Jersey. So you come off a season like that where, you're very close to an overall state title, again, the first state title now in New Jersey state history. Now they added the extra round of the playoffs. How do you transition from a season like that into this one? We'll get into the players individually themselves in a second, but what kind of mentality shift is it going from, we had this magical year in 2022, but now we have to reset for 23?
Yeah, it keeps you humble, that's for sure. Last year was an awesome football season for our program. We dealt with some adversity right from the out of the gates in the summer in August with the quarterback situation. Had that hiccups game 2 against Ocean City, our arch rival. But I think in hindsight, that game probably helped us, as bad as that might sound, but it really made us look at things in a different light, especially at the quarterback position. And, the kids came around, had a great season, some big wins, a nice playoff run there. With our first sectional title in 14 years at Mainland, and then to make it to the semifinals against a very good and the eventual state champion Millville team. But I think in all reality, as great as that season was, that last game of the season really has propelled our off season. The kids know how close we really came to getting to the state championship game. And it's nothing against Millville. They proved themselves the week before against Hampton and against us by driving the field in the waning moments of the game to win it. Won a tough state championship game also. But we had that game in hand probably 3 different times. We could have put that game maybe away and won that game. And that taste has been in everybody's mouth ever since the season ended. We're proud of what we did, but that was last year now. So we've changed our focus into this year and what we know we can accomplish.
Yeah, it's always interesting hearing coaches discuss last season's results and say, yeah, it's in the rearview mirror, but then other coaches will say, like it's still there, but you still have to turn the page, but at least it's used as motivation, which may be cliche, but it's good to know that everyone kind of knows mentally where it was left off and what can be done. So we're talking about this season now, a big senior class just graduated, naming a couple guys, Jabril Mace, Nick Wagner, Stephen Ordili, Paul Lombardo, Nick Timmick. I mean, that's a very talented senior class that left their mark last season. How do you replace those guys? I mean, obviously you guys have had a lot of depth last year as well, but are there any other guys stepping up now, or guys that maybe we don't know about that are going to be in those positions coming in this fall?
Yeah, I mean, those guys were great guys, the senior class that we had. They went through it all, which is really neat when you watch the evolution of your football program from, a couple down seasons during the COVID years, and then transitioning through and watching them grow and develop. Because a lot of those guys that graduated last year had to play as freshmen and sophomores well before they really should have been on a varsity football field in high school. It's hard to replace a Jabril Mace. He's one of a kind, generational type of back that comes around every so often to you. And the high character of those kids. That's the hard part to sometimes replace. It's not just the player itself on the field. It's really the character, the leadership aspect that's there, but that's what happens. People leave and then someone else has to step in and fill their shoes in the best way that they possibly can. But we return a lot of guys from last year's team. As Stephen Ordili is actually going to be a senior this year.
Yes,
he's been a four-year starter in the secondary for us. He came on as an offensive player last year. in the backfield. He'll be in the backfield again this year for us. Obviously, Cohen Cook, who just won the Atlantic City Press Male Athlete of the Year.
That kid, by the way, can just do it all. Three-sport
Yeah,
athlete,
he's
dominant everywhere.
you know, it's funny, like in talking to college coaches over this past off season, he's just like a Swiss Army knife. You know, is he a running back? Is he a receiver? Is he an outside linebacker? Is he a strong safety? He can punt. He can kick. Whatever you want him to do, he can do it. You know, it's a nice thing to have on your team, believe me. And the kid's so humble. He doesn't even. You got to like really hit him to get a word out of him. You know, Rockford Dilly, who was a sophomore last year. Played behind Mace really at running back when we moved around the backfield. He got a lot of time last year, though, and he's going to step in at linebacker also for us this year. JJ Sinclair returns. JJ was all South Jersey first team and all state last year, third team. At linebacker, another 4-year starter for us. Get a little spin on offense also. Also up front, two of our anchors on the offensive line. Dan DeFeo is a 3-year starter, is a junior this year. Zach Hodges, 3-year starter. He'll be a senior this year. Jack Haynes is a 3-year starter at left guard. Jamie Tyson is back also. Jamie's tremendous on both sides of the ball. Had a lot of big plays for us last year. On defense, I think he had 2 defensive touchdowns, 4 interceptions. Had, I think, 6 touchdowns receiving last year. And, of course, our quarterback, who was only a freshman last year, John Franchini, returns. And just to watch the development of him from last year into this year, he's really taken big, huge strides in the overall understanding of the offense, the passing game. He's taken it under his own thing to understand every single offensive lineman rules on every single running play. So he really wants the command of the offense, you know. And on defense, you know, of course, we have Hunter Watson back, who started outside linebacker last year for us and really got better every single game for us. And he really has grown this offseason. He stands at 6'5", 230 now, and he's going to also play tight end for us this year. You know, in the secondary, we have Jamie at the one corner. We'll have probably competition between Antonio Tartaglio and Jake Blum, who's a sophomore at the other corner position. Liam Kennedy is vying for a free safety position. He was a freshman last year who got a lot of playing time on both sides of the ball also. So we return a lot of experience, you know, and you know, we're looking forward to this year just because it's been a lot easier for us this year because the kids are second year in the system. You know, we're so much far further ahead than we were this same time as last year.
No doubt. I mean, you basically just reeled off an all-star team. It seems like based on the amount of guys that are coming back. And yes, beg your pardon on Stephen Ordile. He is back. So loaded roster coming back. You already mentioned John Franchini. I actually want to dive into him a little bit because he had the honor, the privilege, and he earned the right to become the starting quarterback as a freshman last year. Did a fine job last year with the talent that was around him. Of course, obviously the offense predicated a lot on Jabril Mason, the running game. But you mentioned the development that he's had this offseason, now a sophomore. What does that do? Is he, in all likelihood, just based on the trajectory of his high school career, he's going to be a 4-year starter, barring anything unforeseen. Look at him from freshman year to sophomore year now. You mentioned the development, what you've seen him, you know, taking more of a command of the offense. Does this change your offensive philosophy at all, knowing that he is going to probably be a better quarterback than he was as a freshman?
Yeah, you know, last year, you know, he got thrown in the frying pan right away. It was game week against EHT, and he becomes the starter. But the thing that he has about him is he has such a charisma, and his teammates love the kid. You know, I mean, when he walked into the huddle the very first time, it was like somebody plugged in the offense. It was amazing the energy that he brought to the offense as a freshman. You know, and last year I really took it with kid glove approach on him. I didn't want to put a lot on his plate. You know, he had a lot going into it, getting thrown into it right away. Varsity football after playing 8th grade, the speed of the game is just so different. So we took it really easy through the year with him. With that being said, he got better every game. You know, in all reality, he won us. Not that any person wins a game for you, but his playing in the Hamilton game was gigantic for us. We don't have him and his ability to throw the football. That game might go the other way. The same thing in the sectional final against Middletown South. We don't have a passing game. You know, that's an uphill battle against a very strong Middletown South game. But he was able to, you know, his throwing ability, his, you know, maturation through the season really developed. He was much more, at the beginning of the season, he was a freshman. By the end of the season, he was like an end of the sophomore type of kid. That being said, going into this year, I've met with him during the season, all off season with the offense, what we're looking at doing, talking here and there, back and forth. He will have a bigger part and bigger identity in the offense. We have a lot of tools in our offense in the backfield and at receiver. But I think the thing is to start to bring him along and add maybe a running aspect with him. Not that we're going to depend on him to be a runner, but just to add another dimension to his game and to our offense.
No doubt. It's going to be fun to watch his development through this year and obviously in the years to come as well. So you mentioned EHT before. So actually brings me to my next question. That's a big rivalry. Again, traditional Thanksgiving rivalry. I played in it back when I was at EHT, a decade ago now, which is hard to believe. You look at that game and it transitioned from Thanksgiving to the beginning of the season. And now they are the final regular season game on your schedule this year. You guys obviously open up against Washington Township at Battle of the Beach, but I want to talk about the HT rivalry real quick because it's one of the more storied and traditional rivalries in South Jersey within the Cape Atlantic area. How do you feel about that game now being at the end of the year now? Again, I know it's not Thanksgiving. In fact, it's over a month before Thanksgiving. So is it still the same when you play those guys, whether it's week 0 or it's the final week of the season before the playoffs?
It's a unique game. I've been a part of the EHT Mainland rivalry since it started. My senior year in high school, we played EHT for the first time on Thanksgiving. And, when we had his Thanksgiving game, it was always that traditional game, and watching EHT grow as a school and as a football program. And, they were floundering in the beginning to get going. Then they were a powerhouse for quite some time. Some runs to the sectional finals with Coach DeRosa, who did a tremendous job, I thought, with them. And then, when all of a sudden Thanksgiving games started going by the wayside, we were trying to save it to a degree. And we went to Thanksgiving Eve at our place, and we had the biggest crowds in mainland history on Thanksgiving Eve games, because that just showed how many people were coming to that game that between EHT and mainland. And then when all of a sudden they went by the wayside and we were talking about it, we wanted to kind of keep it special. So we thought, hey, maybe we make it as the opening game of the season. And we did that for 2 or 3 years or something like that. And then this year, when we were speaking to EHT, we were trying to find more of a hole in the opening week that we could go out and schedule somebody. It's hard to find somebody week 9. It's easier in week 0. So in speaking with EHT, we both agreed, hey, let's move it to that last slot in the season, kind of make it back where it used to be, even though it's not Thanksgiving, but it's the last regular season game. And that gave us both more flexibility to find somebody in week 0, to go out and have a competitive game for the season.
No doubt. So that'll be one to watch for sure. Of course, it's, again, in my opinion, one of the best rivalry games in South Jersey. Looking forward to that one. Obviously, what they can do under Rob Davis as well, new head coach over there. So looking ahead now to this year, Battle of the Beach is first. Making a run, again, all coaches usually just tell me it's one game at a time, and I'm sure that's the coach speak that everyone's going to give me. I try to elicit crazy answers, of course, but Washington Township, very talented team, big school. How do you feel about this opener on a neutral site, big event like Battle of the Beach? That first that first day, actually, I believe you guys are the first game at Battle of the Beach as well.
Yeah, we are. We're 10 a.m. that Friday. I think it might be the first game in the state for the year again. I think we were the same thing last year.
10 a.m. kickoff, baby.
Yeah, we're talking about EHT and Washington Township are the 2 largest high schools in South Jersey. One time I think it was Washington Township. Now I think EHT has actually superseded them. First we were honored to be asked to come back and play in the Battle of the Beach again. And then it made it really unique that we could go out and find a Group 5 opponent with such a tradition like Washington Township has. I mean, I think when I saw them at a 7-on-7 tournament this summer up at Rowan University, and speaking to the coaches up there, and they have a great staff. And, we're coming in with like 27 freshmen this year, and they have 55 freshmen coming in. It's just a different game, up there. But
I feel 2 freshmen teams with that.
Yeah, and they were a solid team last year. They gave a lot of people fits last year. They had that lineman who went to Rutgers, Stone. But they're always rich in tradition, tough football team. Our focus is on that August 25th game against Washington Township. That's all we're thinking about right now. That's all we've been thinking about all summer. That's all we've been working on the whole summer, because we know that's a huge game for us for getting ready to prepare for hopefully a playoff run again.
Yeah, no doubt. So, Coach, I'll leave you here with this one. Of course, Mainland head coach Chuck Smith with me on Cape Atlantic live on Cal 1-on-1 presented by Ulmer's Appliance Service. Coach, you look ahead to the year, and again, we're not projecting state championships. We're not even looking at the head of the playoffs. Heck, we're not even looking at week 1. We have to look at week 0 first, as all people have to do before the season starts. But what does this team have to do? What does this community have to do to rally around this school once again? Got so close last year. What's the message? You mentioned how like the bitter taste is still there from the Millville loss last year, but what does everyone have to do collectively to say that's not going to happen again? If we're in that same spot, we will take the next step. What needs to happen for that to happen for Mainland in 2023?
Our community is awesome. Mainland community is phenomenal. I mean, Friday nights at the Mustang Corral are like none other. The way the student body comes out, the band, the cheerleaders. We have such community support from our local businesses to help the football program. I mean, I can never say enough thank yous to our community in the Mainland area. But, we've told the kids this year, like, as we started the show off with, last year was last year. It was great. Boom. Names are on the banner. They're hanging in the gym. Overdone. Turn the page. Let's go. But with that being said, we're fueled by that Millville game as we're going. But our goal as a coaching staff and as a team is really to maintain our focus week to week. It's easy to look ahead and what's down there, and nobody's going to give us a playoff spot. Nobody's handing us a title again, the division title or anything like that. There's a lot of tough teams on our schedule this year. Washington Township, AC, Hamilton's always a strong team, and that's not to knock anybody else, but they're right there in the mix every year with that stuff. So, our big goal is just maintain our focus week to week, worry about what we have to do ourselves, not worry about anybody else, and just continue to get better. We will need to give some time to get some of our young guys up to speed to build some depth in our program, because injuries are inherently going to happen. It's just part of the game, the nature of the beast with our game. We just want to make sure that if somebody goes down, it's next man up, and that's our mentality with it. But it's really just maintaining our focus and staying humble and doing what we need to do to be the best that we possibly can be. And whether we win that week or lose that week, so be it. But, we just move on.
Love to hear it. Love the message for Mainland football here in 2023. Coach, thanks for joining me. As always, appreciate the time. Looking forward to the season. About 5 weeks out from Battle at the Beach. It's going to be another great fall of high school football, and looking forward to communicating with you all season long.
Awesome. Thank you, Nick, very much. Appreciate it.